Welcome to Business with Beers, a podcast for business owners who want to scale their business to massively grow their income and contribution by investing in people, process, and technology. This week, we've got Daniel Ramsay, the founder of MyOutDesk, a leading virtual staffing company. In this episode, we talk about when it's time to hire a virtual assistant and the best practices for getting them trained and ingrained within your company. We go over the concept of time freedom and compound leverage. And ultimately, what is the difference between a full-time staffing company and a task-based platform like Upwork? And listen to the end where Dan is giving away a free book all about scaling your business through hiring virtual assistants. Welcome to the show, Dan.
Hey, Brian. Thanks for having me here.
Yeah, great. Well, this wouldn't be Business with Beers if I didn't ask you. It's not COVID, and we can go to a bar. What are we drinking?
Well, I'm a big. I like the Hefeweizen. So
Okay. Yep.
that's my move. Light wheat beer.
Yep, I am a fan as well.
Good.
Fantastic. Look forward to it. So yeah, share a story, who you are, what you do, how'd you get involved in the virtual staffing business?
Yeah, man, my story, and if you're listening and you're an entrepreneur, you probably identify with it, but I'm literally on my honeymoon in Guatemala. So we're at a Francis Ford Coppola resort, and he's got these insane resorts there, and it was in the trees. There were monkeys, like howler monkeys in the background, and these bungalows. So you went from like a tree house to a tree house, right? And I found myself actually in the bar at 1 a.m, working on my business. And it was wild because, I was there, I was drinking, I was working by candlelight. The bartender was the only other person there because, it was just me and him, and he can't leave until I leave. So he takes my cell phone and then snaps a photo of me, and in Spanish starts just making fun of me. Like, dumb white guy, beautiful bride back in the room. Yeah. What's wrong with Americans? And it was in that moment that I knew something in my business world had to change. Like, some shift needed to happen. I've always, I was that weird kid who grew up like selling candy bars on the bus, and like just always knew I was going to be a business owner and an entrepreneur. But I wanted to own a business, not have a business own me. And that's really the epiphany. That's really how MyOutDesk got started. It's really that turning point for me as a business owner to shift from just having a highly paid job where I was making good money to owning a business.
Okay, so that was the point. What was your business at the time?
I'm a real estate developer, so I bought and sold a lot of properties, built properties. I'm that weird guy. I still have a broker's license. I'm still a general contractor, and I still, like, my wife calls it house porn, because I'm always looking at what commercial deals are going on in the city, and like I just kind of keep my eye on Northern California, like all the transactions that close. And
okay.
So even to this day, I love that world of building, and I grew up as a kid wanting to build things. So as an adult, that was my first business.
Hey, that's great. So you decide you want to do this, start this staffing company. What do you do next? How do you get from where you were to where you are now?
What's funny is we've got a large sales team, and I was just sharing with them this week in our meeting that when I first thought about hiring a virtual assistant, I was like, no, that's dumb. Like, why would I do that? And I remember thinking, I have employees that like sit and breathe and live in my office. Like, why would I ever hire a virtual assistant? And really what happened is I found out how easy it was. Like, I found a virtual assistant. They were really good. I worked on creating a system and a process for them, and I gave them one task and they rocked it. And then I was like, wow, I've got all these other jobs that need doing, and nobody to do them. And so I just kept giving them more and more work. And literally at one point, a friend of mine says, hey, Daniel, could you help me find a virtual assistant? And I was like, yeah, but it's a pain in the butt, so I got to charge you something. And he's like, yeah, just charge me. That guy ended up hiring 17 of our folks. He was our first customer back in 2008. And, we shaved $100,000 off his payroll every 2 weeks.
Oh, wow.
Just by creating a blended model where, his US team was focused on the most important work, and a virtual assistant team was, focused on all the stuff that they could do to really leverage their time. And we call that a blended model, where your US folks, they're driving revenue, they're loving on your clients, they're taking care of all the stuff that, either is physical or requires licensing or, a high level of skill, and everything else we handle for our customers.
Okay. Interesting. Yep. So what is a virtual professional, right? And how is Mod different than like Upwork or any other provider out there?
Yeah, it's good. It's a good question. So we call our people virtual professionals, and really it happened because my first assistant, that one that I hired when I was having that breakdown on my honeymoon, like she was telling me, "Hey, Daniel, I'm not an assistant. Like I have 10 years of experience and I helped build this other business and this other business." And she goes, "I'm a professional." And I was like, "Whoa, you're a professional?" And I was thinking about it, and then I started looking at who our people were, like, what kind of background do they have? What kind of experience do they have? And I was like, wow, we don't have assistants. We have professionals. We have people who they've made a career out of serving businesses virtually from their home. And so we call all of our people virtual professionals. And we have a really strict way of kind of vetting and bringing people in. Brian, I haven't told anybody this, but we just pulled our numbers for last year. We had 27,000 initial interviews last year to hire 500 people.
Oh, wow.
And so and we put them through an FBI grade background check. Our people have to get fingerprinted before they come and work for our customers. There's a health check. Basically, they get a medical exam saying that they're physically fit. Like, we just do these checklist things that are just so much higher and better than some of the other companies out there. That being said, our model is full staffing. So entrepreneurs come to us, business owners, C-suite people, leaders in their world, and they say, "Hey, this is the need. I need to buy some of my time back," or "We have this challenging process and we need somebody to own it." And we'll go through a process where we kind of identify exactly what they're going to do and exactly how they're going to do it. So like, what systems you have, what's your tech stack, what kind of are you ready to go virtual? By the way, this going virtual thing, with coronavirus happening last year, it's been a game changer for us because we've taught our customers already how to do it. So our customers,
you're ahead of the pack.
Yeah, our customers were already set up for this virtual space, and it's been really cool to watch the growth that's happened due to coronavirus and the fact that everybody is now working virtual. And I know it's hard for a lot of entrepreneurs out there. One of my good friends that I play soccer with, he owns a restaurant, several restaurants, right? And so he's telling me all the challenges, like he can't open his shop. He can't have people come into his stores. Like, it's been challenging. And yet for us and for our customers, it's actually been a good way to highlight the fact that we're a virtual company.
Yep. Okay. So the vetting process, right? The biggest challenge, I think a lot of entrepreneurs, even when I started looking at it, it's the trust factor, right? And it's, we want to trust them reconciling bank accounts, credit cards, personal information to book me flights. They need my social, right? And so that's like, I think the number one fear, at least a big one for us, was, the vetting and the trust, and how do you know these people aren't, hackers and all this stuff. So I think, for you guys, what stood out when we hired was that vetting process, the FBI grade level, right? The employment verification and referrals, which right here in the Philippines, they have a little bit more employer friendly practices. So I think that's a huge differentiator and a big reason why, I think you're probably so successful.
Well, and so about 7 years ago, when you build something with scale, that's what we have is, we have 1,400 virtual professionals placed in the US and Canada with customers. And if you own a business and you've ever thought about it, at the end, I'll give away a book. All of the stuff that we do is value. Like, we want to add value to our customers. We want to serve them in a way. But, 7 years ago, when we were at scale, we were at 300-400 people, and we're all very remote. So we're all virtual, right? So work
makes sense,
home.
Right?
Yep.
You should be.
And what's weird is I couldn't tell who was coming and who was going. Because if you work in a normal environment, everybody comes through the front door. Well, in our environment, we didn't have a front door. So we built software to kind of add a layer of trust for our customers. So we have something called MyTime, which is a time tracking software. Our people log in, we can see their internet speed, we can see what systems they're on, we can see that they're actually moving their mouse, using their computer, their screen is changing. So we invested heavily and spent lots of money on this tech platform to give our customers, like, not only are we vetting our people, but we have the systems and tools so that when there is a challenge or there is an issue, we know exactly what that person did in the day. And what's cool about that tool is it's, compliance is a big deal right now.
Yep.
Privacy is a big deal. So it's PCI compliant, it's GDPR compliant, it's a privacy first platform. So if you're a healthcare provider or insurance guy or somebody that deals with sensitive information, our platform is not only able to have an accountability check, but it's also very very secure.
Okay. Yeah, great. So MyOutDesk, one of the things you said, it's a staffing company. It's all full-time, right? So you can't hire part-time. You can't hire one jobs through you guys. It's all full-time compared to like an Upwork, which is, by task, by hour.
Yeah. In fact, your earlier question, we never got to it, but when I think about the landscape, there's platforms like Fiverr and Upwork, which are very task-oriented or project-oriented. And then there are companies like us that we're very specific and strategic with how we hire. We're a full-time staffing company. If you're a growing company and you have over $500,000 in revenue and time is your enemy, I mean, it's my enemy, by the way. I always wish I could buy more of my time. But if time is your thing, then I want you to give us a call, because that's what we'll do is we'll walk through a strategic kind of conversation where we put a plan together, figure out exactly what would be the highest and best use of your time and your team's time. And then what we're doing is we're just helping you buy more of your day back. And companies like Upwork and Fiverr, they're like, hey, I need one thing done. And that's what they specialize. Our world is being a strategic talent, source for businesses that are scaling and growing.
Okay. Yeah. So if you've never hired one before, right, what's the first? Is it an executive assistant? Is that kind of the role you think an entrepreneur? What would you recommend someone who has never hired one before, and where do they start? What do they do? How do they train them?
Yep. I love all those questions. So the question, in fact, it's interesting because I got this question from somebody else the other day. Is like, hey, I'm thinking about hiring an executive assistant, and I'm not sure if I want to go the virtual professional route or if I want somebody physically in my office. And that seems to be the biggest question that entrepreneurs have. Like, can I have a virtual assistant do this job or not? And my favorite advice, and this is really a big deal, if you have it in a system or a process, we can serve you. Meaning, if there's a system and process together, and I'm going to define that for the audience because I think it's important to explain what that means. Our company, we get referrals all the time. It's one of our largest lead sources. And my sales team was talking about the difference between a personally developed lead and just a referral. Like, if a customer sends us a referral, that's a referral. But a personally developed lead for us is when a salesperson asks for a lead that's not in our database and they get it directly from that customer or that client.
So one's proactive versus the other is kind of passive.
Exactly.
Right.
And when we proactively go after it, I want to reward that. Meaning, if my sales team proactively adds to our database, proactively adds to our revenue, I want to pay more. And if our clients give us a lead, I want the client to then receive a benefit, right?
Yep.
Not the salesperson. So we've defined those two, different styles of leads in the business. And we have them written out very clearly with examples and details. And this is how you know it's a personally developed lead versus a referral. This is how you know that you're going to get paid on it. This is the documentation inside of our CRM. But literally, it's a 2-page document that details all of the different scenarios, and then it's given to the team so that they're very clear about what the difference between an active referral and a passive referral is, right? That's an example of what we call a standing operating procedure, like a standard operating procedure. And my favorite way to do that is create a video. So just like you and I, we're on Zoom right now, like the whole world's on Zoom, right? gosh, if we could have gone back in time and invested in Zoom last year, So what I like to do is I like to share my screen, talk through the how, what, and why, and then do the job on a recorded Zoom or recorded anything. And then hand that recorded document over to a virtual professional, have them write out the steps. And then when they write out the steps, give it back to me along with the recording, and I confirm, yes, this is absolutely the steps of the job. We call that play, pause, do, where there's a video demonstration of somebody doing the job, talking about the how, what, and why. And then there's a written document behind it with that video embedded in that document. That's a system and process. That's, hey, go into the CRM, that's the text app, that's a tech stack. And then here's the written documentation. Here's a video explaining why this is important, what it's going to do. You can, as an entrepreneur, you can tell somebody to do something and you probably get it done, or you can share with them the how, what, and why it's important, how to actually do it, what result do you want out of this particular process, right? And when you do those things, all of a sudden you've created scale in your business, because we call it compound leverage. When you give a task away, you put it into a system and a process, and you never have to do it again. You get that time back for the rest of your career. As long as you take that time and you love on your business and you find new ways of growing revenue and new ways of, getting more customers and having your customers be more satisfied with your product or service, now you've created that revenue generation. Now you're creating scale. And this step is where most entrepreneurs fall down when it comes to hiring, period.
Yep. Yeah. My biggest challenge is kind of how do I identify what are these tasks that I can give away, and sometimes you just think, man, I can do it. It takes me 2 minutes, 5 minutes. Right. But then throughout the day, obviously it adds up. But then it's the time invested, right, to train them to think kind of how you think. That's the biggest challenge. Any recommendations? How do you identify tasks that you want to give away versus, what you can do yourself?
Yeah, it's interesting because I am the fastest. I remember seeing like a personal development guy, and he's big in the world of entrepreneurship, and he's on stage and he's like, look, if I write an article, if I write a piece of content, it could take me 30 to 45 minutes and I'll have a 2-page thing, and then I hand it to my team and it gets handled, right? But if I ask them to write that article, it might take them 2 or 3 days. Yeah. And so all that time is wasted. There are certain things that your experience and expertise and your years of, just building up the muscles to do that job, it just makes sense for you to do. And usually they're high impact stuff. It's stuff that generates the most revenue. It's signing the deal. It's getting the big win. It's the, identifying a new franchise to buy or a building to buy or whatever it is, right? Those are the things that I tell people, hey, do only the things that only you can do, and everything else put into a system and process and give away. And what that does for people is it does 2 things. One, it teaches you how to have ultimate leverage in your life, which is, by the way, time's the only thing that you can't buy more of. Like, it's the only thing that expires. Once you're dead, right? There's no coming back at the end, although people would love to do it and say, give me 10 more, like once you're done, right? So, creating system and process, it literally can buy more time for your life. And so I just find really, really smart entrepreneurs understand the value of money and time, and they make the appropriate trade-offs. The people who are living in scarcity, the ones who are worried or fearful or aren't willing to focus, or chasing those shiny objects. I was that guy in my 30s, who want to start multiple businesses because they have an idea. Those guys and gals, they're challenged long term. And so it takes work to build leverage in a business. It takes work to build systems and processes, but it's also the thing that makes your business sellable. It's the thing, as an investor, no investor wants to come in and realize that the business is all about you, right? And all about what you can do.
Yeah.
because it's not sellable then. So those are the two things I would say.
Okay. Yeah. I've also heard if it's something you're not good at, right, or you just like don't like doing, those are like should be top on the list. I'm trying to convince my wife to let her do meal planning and then grocery shopping, because all our groceries are bought online now, and we just like pick them up or they're delivered, and she's not ready to let go of that yet. But that's I'm working on it.
Man, wives are hard. Whenever there's personal relationship involved, it's really hard. I think, the other thing is people aren't certain, and this is probably hard advice to understand, so I'm going to try to break it down. Sometimes you have to pull somebody through the experience with leverage, meaning, they've never let something go. They've never built a system and process around the thing. They've never had success empowering somebody else. And so, whether it's your wife or a manager at your business or a leader who's just a rock star, but has never had leverage success, those people just, you've got to hold their hand and you've got to walk through what a success might look like, and then also give them a bigger vision, right? Like, hey, if you leverage this, then you're going to be able to do this impactful thing for the business, and that's going to make the difference in the valuation. So, when somebody's new, and this is a place that we help a lot of our clients, the C-level person or the leader will come through, hire us, but then there's a layer down of managers or a layer down of individual contributors who need the same support to understand how to be successful. And this is another area that we're just constantly helping our clients win with,
Yep. Yeah, it's been exciting for us to see, because as we have, two full-time from you guys, and we can see them develop too. I mean, one of them where she does outbound appointment setting for customers, but now we have her also listening to inbound calls that get recorded to grade our people on how they did following the script. And at first we gave her kind of basic instructions, then she did a good job of that, so we increased it to how was their tone of the voice, did they try to set the appointment, how do you think this went? And she gave us very good reviews and posted the the audio files to Slack, and did an excellent job flagging the ones. We were like proud of her, because it was a big improvement from what we've previously seen or even asked for. So
yeah. What's interesting is leverage when you have the right person on your team, and then they start learning aspects of your business, and then they start taking more and more responsibility and more opportunity comes to them. Like, that's another place that people don't talk about. But when your leverage gets leverage, that's another big win in the scaling journey, because all of a sudden you get to push more and more down and focus on big picture stuff.
Yep. And as we look to hire a third to do some more accounting, our plan is to have our, first who does some accounting train the new one, right? Yeah. So it's not one of us, it's the VP teaching the other VP how they do it. And I think, that concept, that's total leverage. It's total compounding efforts, right?
Yeah. And that funny thing, that compound leverage, once you give a task away, put it into a system and process, measure it and keep it in that system and process, like, you get that time back. And all of a sudden that time, if you invest in like growing revenue and growing people, that's when that hockey stick appears, hockey stick where everything changes in your business. You can afford more ads. You can afford to hire, really high level people. And we've watched that journey so many times, and it's always difficult when somebody comes in and does a consultation and we're explaining, hey, you have to take the time to build systems and process, because it's not sexy, it's not fun, it's not the next tech thing, it's not buying leads, it's boring. Write it down on paper, pen and paper. So, it's a challenge that we have, but it's also the thing that makes it the most valuable. It's the thing that drives valuation or enterprise value in a business. So yeah, it's a lot of fun being me.
Yeah. So the your VPs that work is how do they, once they're on board, is there like training you guys provide? Is there a community? Like, how do they get better at, it's organizational skills, right? It's communication, the big things follow through, right? And you give them a task, it might be a couple months down the line that they, follow up on it. And so what support do they get from you guys or from each other?
It's a great question. I want to highlight something. You mentioned Slack, and one of the things that we do up front is just kind of set up all the systems required to win with a blended model. Most businesses don't have things like Slack, which is just a communication platform, and you can build different channels.
Yep.
But Slack, Asana, Monday, Trello, these are task management platforms and communication platforms that makes working with employees or virtual professionals easy, so that you can just go in, review all the messages, and know when there's a challenge or an issue. And what we would like to see is our customers always embrace these virtual platforms. You need a VoIP phone system. You need a way for your virtual assistant to call, text, do video conferences like you and I are right now, right? You need a task management platform somewhere so they can raise their hand and say, I'm having challenges and I need help, right? That's number two. Number three, you need to fully integrate them with your team. So these are all things, by the way, when you do something 6,000 times, which you at the top you said 5, we're at 6.
No, it's 6, all right.
Yeah. But when you do something 6,000 times, you see these patterns. So what I'm sharing with you, at your audience right now, these are the only things that matter. This is where everybody falls down when they do fall down. First, phones. Second, make sure there's a task management platform. Third, and this one's a really big deal, add them to your website, add them to the team meetings. Make sure they understand the vision and mission of your company. Like simple things like, hey, these are our core values. And people are like, you mean you're sharing core values with a virtual assistant? I'm like, yes, because if you want them to be part of the team, they need to adopt your core values. And so you start adding these things like, hey, what's your value proposition? Who's your market? Who do you serve? What are the things to watch out for? And you fully integrate them into the team. Things like, meeting all of the different people within your organization, creating those personal relationships. Those are the things that full integration is really, really important for anybody who's working virtual. Yep.
And we did that when we started. We introduced via Slack and said, hey, because we want to create that respect. And, if she asks you a question, we want you to, be prompt and answer it and not, ignore it. Sometimes, you gotta set that, especially when it's a new type of thing like a virtual assistant. Great. So what's next for Mod?
We're building more and more systems and processes around serving our customers. And we're really excited because we've built a really big business in healthcare. Franchises are another big area that we serve. Like we're building these inroads into these industries that we have not yet touched. And we're just moving in a space where more and more entrepreneurs realize that this is actually a legitimate option. This is actually something that would help them. And so we're excited about the future. From last year, we're just growing our team. One thing that I would say too, and it goes back to the, successful entrepreneurs. We hired 3 new salespeople last year, and it was really cool to see our team grow that much. 3 people in one shot is a lot. We hired a couple marketing people. So we had this team of 5 to grow the company, right? Well, they're still going through a process where they're getting indoctrinated into the business, and they've only been with us 5-6 months, and they're not yet fully in the rotation. So, what I would tell the folks listening right now is that this isn't a sprint. This is a marathon. And even in our own business, 6 months later, salespeople who are professionals, have a lot of experience, got training directly from me. I mean, these folks watched hundreds of videos, read books, sat in with our existing sales team, and they're 6 months in and they're still not fully trained. I still don't fully trust them to serve my clients the way I want them served. I'm still coaching them and helping them, and we meet every single week. What I would tell entrepreneurs is, if you're in the leverage game, if you want to scale your business, if you want to grow, this is a marathon, and it should be treated just like a marathon. You're going to have ups and downs. Your knees going to hurt. Your ankles are going to hurt. Your back might start hurting. You might have to slow down and get some water. That's the reality of this game. the stats are incredibly crazy. 28 million businesses, only 4% ever actually get over 1 million, and it's a big deal. It's a big deal to get over $1 million in revenue. It's even bigger to scale to 10 million. It's 0.04 when you get over 10 million. So very small percentage of entrepreneurs win because they think it's a sprint when it's really a marathon.
Yep. And I think it's important to keep, back to basics. Sometimes, I have this problem, right? Where we go down this rabbit hole and try to make our business too complicated, make our training too complicated. And at the end of the day, there's only a few things that kind of matter. So I think it's, that's one of my themes this year is the simplicity, and just try to focus on what you're good at and not overcomplicate things for anything that we do. So
it's such a great advice. In fact, it's funny that you say that, because I think if I could think back like 5-6 years ago, I tried to have my business move at my speed. And I thought, well, what do you mean the whole organization can't do this? I can do it. Why can't they? And the reality is, like, as an entrepreneur, we have these special, we can do things fast. We understand things fast. We can learn new things. But, as you grow a bigger and bigger business, you realize that your organization can only move at the speed that it can move at.
Yep.
And there's this disconnect between your speed and its speed. And understanding that things just take 2 or 3 times longer than you want them to.
Patience. That's another one of my, things I'm working on as well. I had someone that told me the other day that similar, right? Just because it's easy for you does not mean it's easy for them. And the people that you're working with, and both vendors and customers and employees, everybody. So you got to be conscientious of that and, adjust accordingly, I guess.
Yeah, my favorite analogy around that is like, if you've ever been to a basketball game and you go down floor side and you see how big these guys are, and their hands like
grab a ball.
They could just grab a ball and throw it, no big deal. And they're 6'8", and that's a normal size. That's how most people feel about what entrepreneurs can do. And so you just have to remember, as an entrepreneur, you're like Shaq, unusually large, unusually proficient at, dunking the ball. Like, that's not normal, but you have to build a team of people who want to play with Shaq. And that's, it takes patience, time, effort, love, communication. I'm going to leave you with this. This is my favorite. I learned this like maybe 10 years ago. If you have an employee, and regardless of if it's a virtual professional or somebody who's in-house or somebody who's in your office or working remote, even there's this 3-step process when there's a mistake, right? Do I have a written system and process for that mistake?
Yep.
Yes or no? When it's yes, then you go to the second thing. The second thing, did I do enough training on that system and process? Like, just giving them a video and a document isn't training. Like, you need to actually spend time with them. You need to go through the process with them. You need to answer their questions and realize that they're going to learn at their speed, not your speed, right? So they are the ones who say, yes, I'm fully trained. I understand what to do. I'm good. So if you can check that off, now you can say, okay, do I have the right person for this role or task? And that framework of kind of really coaching and owning the responsibility will completely transform your thought about, having leverage. And one of my pet peeves is when a customer goes, this person just isn't good enough. And I'm like, that's like my red flag for, okay, this entrepreneur needs to learn something. And that's how we know that framework. Do I have a system and process? Do I have appropriate training that the employee said was appropriate and they had? And then it's always about the talent.
Yep. That's great. Is it written down? Were they trained? And then is it the right person? Right. So that's great.
That's the level.
Fantastic. Any book recommendations? What are you reading now? Recommendations for entrepreneurs looking to grow their business?
Yeah, if you're okay with it, I'd love to give away our book.
Sure.
It's called Scaling Your Business with Mod Virtual Professionals. And again, Everything that we've talked about today is in this book, like how to build a system and process, how to hire effectively, what's a virtual professional versus, a virtual assistant. It also has really good guides for the 4 areas that we serve. So we do sales, so a sales development rep or a sales assistant. We do marketing coordination, so design, design content and design, basically marketing flyers. And then we also have marketing coordinators who can move, CRMs and websites and just
social media,
coordinate everything around, marketing, right? And then we have operations people, people who, are clearly helping you move the ball forward with projects or, doing your admin task or your accounting or accounts payable. And then we have customer service and support. So, think phone calls, think, getting customers to come in the door. And so those are kind of the 4 areas. And in the book, we talk about, what's required for each of the areas. What does the entrepreneur need to provide? What systems need to be put there? And it's all in the book. And you can actually get it by texting now. So here's the thing. On your phone, pull it out. In the text code, you put in the phone number 31996, and it's 31996 in the phone number, and then a message, it's SVP. So Scale with Virtual Professionals, SVP, okay. Sam Victor Paul, and you'll get a copy of the book free. You can do a PDF, you can do a Kindle. There's an audiobook online you can listen to if you'd like, and we're also available on Amazon.
Cool. All right. Yeah. Definitely check that out. And where can people connect more with you or find out more about Mod?
Yeah, MyOutDesk. So jump on our website. It's called myoutdesk.com, MyOutDesk.com. We do a free consultation because while a lot of entrepreneurs are busy, not all of them have the wherewithal to build system and process and hire people and be leveraged, So we go through a process with our folks where, you sign up, you go through a process. We talk about your business, what your vision is, what your tools are, what your IT stack is. And then we try to create a customized plan for hiring a virtual professional and getting them in your business and what the training is going to look like, what you need in order to be successful with it. And all of that's complimentary because we know it's the best leverage point for our customers to be successful with our stuff.
Yep. And if you identify someone is not willing or able to do that, right, then it's probably not a good fit for you guys. And right, is that part of what you determine, or do you help them get to that point?
Well, yeah, it's interesting because we had an insurance broker come through, and he happens to be a referral from a friend like you. And I'm talking to him, and he wanted to hire a prospector, and he wanted to, build this inbound lead process. And I was like, this is amazing. How are you going to do it? And he's like, I don't know. That's why I'm calling you. And I was like, okay, we went through a strategy, and I shared with him what we do, and I gave him homework. I said, hey, go test this out, try it, see if it works, come back to me with some data. And then, so what we're doing is we're not only are we doing a consultation with him, but we're giving him some strategy, having him test it. Once he has it tested and figured out, then we'll be able to hire somebody for that role.
Okay.
And that small pause saved him thousands of dollars.
Yep.
And so that's why we do our consultation. And that's kind of what we do is we want everybody to win because it's a long-term staffing relationship for us.
Yep. Great. Well, I appreciate your time today and sharing your story and all these best practices. I think outsourcing is a great way to scale your business and to leverage your time and get it back so we can invest our time in the things that we love to do, spending time with our family or growing business or contributing back. So, thank you for what you do and putting together a really cool company.
Yeah. Thanks, Brian, for having me.
All right. I'll see you.